what's going on, guys and gals? You know, I always say guys and gals just to be safe if there are any ladies watching, and sure enough, there is a whopping 4% of you. Either that or you accidentally clicked the video thinking it was a Conan O'Brien skit, but I digress. Thanks for watching, ladies. Welcome to another recap video. I'm going to be going over my picks from Week 10, and boy, was it a crazy week. Everything, and I mean everything, played out exactly as it should not have. There were so many scratch-your-head moments that literally nobody could have accounted for, such as Corey Grant scoring on a fake punt touchdown, or that Case Keenum was going to throw 4 touchdowns against the Redskins, or the Saints were getting 5 touchdowns without Drew Brees throwing a pass, or Austin Eckler scoring 2 touchdowns instead of Melvin Gordon. It goes on and on and on. The whole day was like that. Most of us had to rely on the late afternoon games just to possibly break even. Anyway, let's take a look at my picks. As always, we're going to start with our quarterbacks. My top tier quarterback of the week was Matt Ryan. He scored 2 touchdowns for 215 yards, also threw an interception. Considering his price, he did not return the value that he was projecting, but that's not his fault. The Cowboys could not seem to get their offense going without Zeke, and Claiborne was just dominating in the pass rush. So once the Falcons got up, they switched to chew clock mode and rode Coleman till the end of regulation. In hindsight, Ryan would probably have been a better cash game option with these results, but he was only 6% owned. He could have been a game changer if the game was more of a shootout as projected. Oh well, it is what it is. Mid-tier choice was Josh McCown going up against the Bucs' weak secondary. I expected a lot more of a turnout from him. He was only 8% owned in the tournament, threw for 1 touchdown on 262 passing yards, but also threw an interception, garnishing only 13.48 points. At his price, he was nowhere near the ceiling he was projected to get to. Like Des Prescott, he fell victim to the oncoming pass rush that the Jets' defense just couldn't seem to adjust to, as he was sacked 6 times and hit on 8 other occasions. When the pocket collapses like that, there's very little a quarterback can do unless you're, Tyrod Taylor or Cam Newton or some other kind of mobile quarterback who takes off on the run. So McCown didn't do very well. Eli Manning was the low-tier choice, and he performed the best out of the 3 quarterbacks I picked, which isn't saying a whole hell of a lot. He threw for 2 touchdowns, 273 passing yards, and had a fumble. I really didn't expect a monster game from Eli, considering how inconsistent he has been apart from the other issues the Giants are facing, but I was pretty satisfied with his performance. He didn't get to that 20-point ceiling, but he was only 8% owned, so that helped me get up the ranks in the tournament, so can't complain there. Let's move on to running backs. Out of all the top-tier running backs this week, Todd Gurley performed the best at his price, and he was my top-tier choice for the week. He garnished 19.6 Draftkings points on 68 rushing yards. He also had 68 receiving yards on 6 receptions versus a Houston defense that looked pretty abysmal recently. He was only 16% owned, which isn't surprising, as I knew the matchup would scare off some of the more casual players. He would have had a more productive game, but the on-field chemistry between Goff and Woods is really starting to eat into Gurley's projections. Regardless, I was happy with the results that Gurley provided. For mid-tier running back, my choice was Carlos Hyde, who rushed 17 times for 98 yards. He had 2 receptions for 6 yards, but he didn't find the end zone at all, only earning 12.4 points. Against a weak and divided Giants defense, I expected a lot more, but the other option was Devontae Freeman, who left in the first quarter with a concussion, so I guess I shouldn't be complaining too much about it. Even though Hyde had a great rushing performance, the rest of the play was merely a modest contribution. Low tier, I went with Orleans Darkwa. He had 70 rushing yards, 18 receiving yards on 2 receptions, and he also had a 2-point conversion. He pretty much stayed on track with his normal projections, less than 20 rushes and over 70 yards. The 2-point conversion was a nice touch. The Giants unexpectedly trailed throughout the game, preventing him from receiving a more generous amount of usage. So, again, that's not really his fault. If the Giants played a little bit better, he would have seen more usage. So, he did all right for the price that he was at. My wide receiver picks went absolutely nuts this week. AJ Green was my top tier choice, and he was having a pretty subpar game up until Andy Dalton hit him for a 70-yard touchdown pass in the fourth quarter with just 5 minutes to play, so that was awesome. He ended the game with 5 receptions for 115 yards receiving, and he also had that touchdown. So he garnished a total of 25.5 points, including the 100 receiving yard bonus. Golden Tate was my mid-tier choice. Now, thankfully, I went with him over Marvin Jones Jr., who sucked big time this game. Tate came away with 21.7 points from 6 receptions, 97 yards receiving, and 1 touchdown. My only complaint is that he couldn't get 3 more yards to get that passing bonus for us. Mohamed Sanu was my low-tier option this week. He only got 5.9 points from 3 receptions and 29 receiving yards. He was a dud, but luckily I had a few other options in rotation that more than made up for this stinker, so we'll talk more about those later. Let's go on to tight ends. My top tier choice was Evan Ingram, who did not disappoint. He came away with 15.1 points on 1 receiving touchdown, 31 receiving yards, and 6 receptions. He continues to be the go-to end zone target for Eli Manning once they get in the red zone. He scored a touchdown in each of the last 5 weeks, and he certainly did not let up this week by any means. My mid-tier choice was Cameron Brate from the Bucks. With Mike Evans suspended, I really expected Brate to take a fair share of those targets in the redistribution. However, Brate only ended up playing 46% of the snaps. I cannot find a reason for this anywhere. All the experts are just as puzzled for the sudden season-low routes and targets. With only 1 reception for 10 yards, bringing in 2 points, and he being 22% owned, he was the bust of the week. But then the pendulum swung, and my low-tier tight end, Garrett Selleck, came through with 4 receptions for 67 receiving yards and a touchdown, bringing in 16.7 points on a $2,500 salary. He even went on Twitter to acknowledge that he knew about the fantasy buzz surrounding him, and he wanted to help us all out. So kudos to him for thinking of us. All right, so this was my winning lineup in the tournament this week. As you can see, I pretty much got everybody that I went over in the picks video on there, with the exception of Sterling Shepard and Juju Smith-Schuster. Both of them were guys that I talked about in the picks video, but they weren't officially my top, mid, or low tier ticks for the week. They both did relatively well. Sterling Shepard, 142 receiving yards, 11 receptions, plus he got the bonus for the 100 receiving yards. He put up 28.2 points. He was only 21% owned, so that was great. And Juju Smith-Schuster, I'm very surprised he wasn't highly owned in this tournament. 22.5% owned. He had a receiving touchdown, 97 receiving yards on 5 receptions. He brought in 20.7 points. The only complaint I have is that he couldn't get 3 more points to get that 100 receiving yard bonus, but whatever, I'll take it. And then Mohamed Sanu, like I said, he was my bust on this line for the week. My woulda, coulda, shoulda moment was I had Robert Woods in there before I switched to Sanu. If I kept Woods in there, I would have been in the top 1% and would have had a much bigger payday. So yeah, I kind of kicked myself pretty hard for that. I had the Bears defense in there. I wish I would have had the Rams, because I had the Rams in a lot of other lineups, but this particular one I did not. So the Bears were a letdown on that front, but overall I can't complain. Everybody did fairly well. Almost everybody got into the double digits, and as far as the ownership of everybody, I mean, nobody was in the 30s, so that's kind of what you want in GPP tournament formats. So I will certainly take it. 149.92. I had 2 or 3 other lineups that came in just below that, so they all paid out. So I had a relatively okay week, but it could have been a lot better. And that's going to do it for my Week 10 recap. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you liked it, hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter. I say this every week. I may give my picks, but most of my suggestions are going to be from Twitter because things are constantly changing. So please, if you have Twitter, please follow me. If not, please make sure to leave comments down in the comments section so I know what issues you guys are facing and I can help you accordingly. Again, thanks for watching, and I should have the Week 11 video out sometime later this week, probably Wednesday or Thursday, so cheers.